What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about the Fire Emblem reviews for Fire Emblem Engage. They just came in about 20 minutes ago at the time of this recording. Currently, Fire Emblem Engage is sitting at an 82 on Metacritic with 43 reviews coming in. So there'll probably be a few more coming in as the day goes on, as they trickle in. So kind of what I was expecting. I thought it might have been closer to like the upper 80s, but still a very, very solid score. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to read through the top reviewed score and then go down to the bottom reviewed score, and we'll go from there. All right, so we'll start with let's see. I'm not sure Dexerto. I'm not quite sure who that is, but let's go ahead and read it through. So Fire Emblem Engage is a departure from Three Houses, but an incredible degree of polish and a genuinely affecting story make it an easy recommendation. It's not often that a game has a breakthrough moment where it's a whole new audience and then eschews much of what worked for the next in the series. Final Fantasy VII was a cultural moment, sure, but Final Fantasy VIII still moved away from those characters. The Legend of Zelda sequel, The Adventure of Link, moved to a new platformer. Okay, so Fire Emblem Three Houses might not have been on the level of those seminal works in terms of impact, but as an introduction to the franchise on the Switch, it took over the zeitgeist like no other Fire Emblem game before it. A big part of that was down to its trio of narratives spawning best character votes across the internet. While Fire Emblem Three Hopes certainly added an extra layer to that particular universe, Fire Emblem Engage moves in an alternate direction. It's not just a new set of characters and a new setting, though. It's completely sidesteps much of what made Three Houses so memorable, and yet it's become my favorite entry of the two. Fire Emblem Engage is set in Ilios, a continent ruled by four kingdoms that have long since buried the Hatchet, kicking off 1,000 years of peace. That's thanks to the central region of Lithos, a holy land of sorts where the divine dragon Lumera resides. Lumera, Vadasine, kind of gonna skip this. It's significantly more setup than offered by Three Houses, and the early hours feel all the better as its Fire Emblem Engage moves at a brisk pace. Some early moments feel a little full of exposition, and one early game moment, it hits harder than it has any right to the first act. As much as I love good JRPGs, all too often their narratives tend to wash over me with a second thought. With Fire Emblem Engage, however, I was more invested in my party than I found in Three Houses. That's a good sign to hear. Because I feel the same way. Sometimes the narrative can kind of get away of just the gameplay. That's particularly surprising because you won't be spending quite as much time with the cast here in the game's social space. The Somnial, you can attempt some mini games and hand out gifts. Instead, the character's charm comes from the fact that they are all well written and acted. While there are naturally plenty of tropes, just like the armor designs, and some are naturally more one note than others, the time I spent with Fire Emblem Engage was some of my favorite storytelling on the Switch so far, and didn't really want it to end. That's pretty surprising. I never came to Fire Emblem having like the greatest stories, so that's good to hear that story's good. There are plenty of twists and turns throughout, but Fire Emblem's animated cutscenes easily stand alone the likes of Persona 5's, although there aren't quite as many of them, and while some themes are left undercooked. While the game has moved away from the more social sim style of its predecessor, much of the on-field action will be familiar to the Three House players and series veterans. Combat follows the same basic format as it usually has. You'll pick and set your units, pick them on the battlefield, and move engage with the enemy, no pun intended, in a turn-based affair. It's nothing new for the genre, but it's polished to mirror-like shine here. Character personalities are conveyed through animations, flashy attacks, feel suitably weighty, and the removal of the act of moving characters square by square, then they can no roam freely within their movement range. Makes things feel a little bit more modern. The sword axe lance version of rock paper scissors returns, but Fire Emblem's Engage's new mechanic, Fire Emblem Rings, is a game changer in many skirmishes. As we noted in our preview, being able to merge a member of your party with iconic Fire Emblem character like Marth or Ike can clear much of the battlefield in early hours, but in the later hours, a limited turn count for using these abilities makes it a last-ditch move rather than your first thought. Let's see. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. I don't want to bore you guys too much with the reviews, as you guys can go read them yourselves. But yeah, it seems like everything we've kind of known from the reviews and the trailers and stuff like that, that kind of back to basics is what we kind of expect. Let's see. Fire Emblem verdict 5 out of 5. Fire Emblem Engage feels like a step backwards in ways that has this writer appreciates. Gone are the lessons and their place is genuinely affecting story with plenty of whimsy and epic tactical conquest. It's a great way to kick off the year for the Switch, and also happens to be one of the best looking games on the platform too. That's awesome. I know it's one of the criticisms of Three Houses is the graphics weren't quite there, but let's move on to, let's go back here. So we got 45. We're still sitting at an 82 as of this recording. So Games Radar gave it a 50. Let's see what they have to say. Struggles to find the space to let this new roster grow. Let's see. Let's just kind of go. Let's see. Pros, weapon triangle is fantastic. Combat is a tout chess game. Cons, characters are forgettable. Returning heroes outshine the new cast, and wilder world left largely unexplored. I think that's kind of expected. Was, you know, the returning cast is going to outshine. That's just kind of how it plays in those things. Some video games love playing lip service to their past. Newer games in a series might resurrect a character for older fans to appreciate, or bring back a single item for one last trial, like the Samurai Edge and Resident Evil Village. A cheeky wink at players who've been there since the beginning. Fire Emblem Engage takes us to another level. The latest game in Nintendo's strategical series is billed as a grand revival of long-lost characters and elements. Okay, let's just go down a little bit. Kind of want to read the verdict. Fire Emblem Engage is sadly a missed opportunity to tie together a new cast of characters with old heroes of old. There's a great balance struck in combat between new characters striking out on their merits while being supported periodically by supremely powerful heroes, and the weapon triangle's return is an empathetically triumphant one, successfully making each unit feel valued and vulnerable. All that can't make up for a completely apathetic and forgettable new bunch of characters, though, while the wilder world of Fire Emblem is largely left unsolved. So that's interesting to hear. They seem to be more, I don't know, they seem to be more caring about how the new characters impacted the game, while the other review, you know, touted its great storytelling, and didn't really mention the lack of, like, the new characters too much. So that's pretty interesting. Let's go back here. So again, 82. Let's just refresh to see. So 82, 100, 100, 100. Got a bunch in the 90s. I read the IGN review. They liked it a lot. Bunch in the 80s. So yeah, I mean, just kind of what we expected for Fire Emblem. I don't think Fire Emblem's ever really reviewed in the 90s like this before, especially like on the 3D, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of what we expected. I'm still super excited for Fire Emblem. My history of Fire Emblem is very limited. I really only played through the two on the American versions of the Game Boy Advance. Didn't play any on the GameCube, Wii, and I missed out on Three Houses just because of that, the story being, you know, having the three paths, and it just felt a little bit overwhelming. So I'm super excited for this game. I've got it pre-ordered on Best Buy. Probably going to do an unboxing video of the special edition on Friday. So look forward to that if you guys care about seeing unboxings. And yeah, I'm excited. The reviews seem very, very positive, and looks like it's going to be another hit, another great start to Nintendo on the Switch in 2023. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'll let YouTube algorithm pick one of my videos below for you guys to watch. Give it a click, and I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.